Hello there, this is Paul, and this is a video about A Course in Miracles. And today I'm going to talk about how to apply forgiveness to be a bit more practical. Like, how do you use A Course in Miracles? How do you actually apply stuff to your life? How do you make a change? How do you go from upsets to peace of mind, or suffering to empowerment, or being in states of fear and going to feeling happy and confident? It's kind of what the whole work of the Course is about. So it's good to have a background of the theory, and like the workbook says at the beginning, having the theoretical foundation and all the concepts, and sort of understanding what situation we're in and how we got here, and what the mechanics of the ego are, and how it's affected your thinking, and things to do with projecting and denial and states of mind and stuff like that. All kind of helps you to get sort of a background structure of the metaphysics to kind of understand, okay, this is the kind of big picture, this is what we're talking about, this is what things mean, this is what's kind of happening. And that kind of gives you sort of a background of tools and information that you can then start to apply in transforming how you see from false perception to true perception. But even if you're not doing the workbook lessons, and I just started redoing them recently, stuff just comes up in your daily experiences. These are your lessons. These are your the curriculum, the universal curriculum, where stuff just sort of happens, and people who are to meet will meet, and sometimes you encounter things that are just terrible and awful, and you need help to get out of this shit. How do I learn the lesson? The sort of like the answer to every lesson is the secret of salvation. I just did a video about the secret to salvation, so check that one out. Because really, if you can learn that one lesson, that you are the one who's dreaming it, you're the one who's making it happen, you're doing it to yourself, you can set yourself free from every form of suffering in the whole world. It is the kind of like the one correction, it's the atonement, this one principle that nothing has happened to me against my will, and any form of suffering or upset that I've had, including physical sickness and emotional disorders and mental illness and whatever else, has all occurred because of my belief in the ego and ego lies, and believing that illusions are the truth, and being just sort of confused and lost in appearances, and unclear about who's causing what and who did what to who, and where things are coming from, and who's responsible for it, and what part do you play in the participating of it? How do you have a hand in it, and how can you change your contribution to where you're not hurting yourself and not making things upsetting and not causing dramas? And so that whole kind of transition from insanity to sanity, or fear to love, or suffering to salvation, or however you want to put it, split-mindedness to whole-mindedness. When you find yourself sort of lost and trapped and stuck in illusions, and you're suffering and you're not very happy, how do I get out of that shit and get some peace and get some happiness and get back to some sanity? That's sort of the how-to. That's the burning question everybody kind of has. How do I forgive this shit? And the shit shows up in so many different seeming forms. But the Holy Spirit's one lesson of the secret of salvation is that you learn that the form that these particular issues are taking is part of the illusion that this is a very special, isolated, specific problem that is totally separate from and different to other problems. And that deception is part of why it's hard to forgive. That I found that when you really have bought into appearances and you're immersed in some kind of problem that seems really specific, and it's about this person, and it's about what they did on this date, and here's how it made me feel, and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes your perception can be so back to front, and you're kind of so locked into the drama of it and the ego and the reactions and the emotions that you can't even get a sense of any kind of clarity here. You can't get a picture of, well, I see that that I'm doing something, or this has caused this, or something here isn't quite true, or whatever. Some of the ego dramas that you get into are just so deceiving and so blinding. I've had times where I'll just be so blinded and I'm so absorbed in an upset and an issue that I may not even think about forgiving. I might not even cross my mind that I'm doing anything wrong at all. You can get so convinced that you're, particularly when you're very deluded, you can get really, really strongly convinced that you're not doing anything wrong and it's all somebody else's fault, and they're entirely the one who's to blame, and you didn't ask for this at all, and they're the cause of all the suffering. And so you don't think that there's anything about yourself that you need to change, that you're not having anything to do with this problem. And how dare anybody even suggest that you are the one who is in need of healing, that there's something wrong about your perception or anything. You get into those states where it just seems like you lose touch with all sense of responsibility for being the cause of it at all. And when it gets into those really extreme cases, that's when you get so kind of unconscious and so blinded by the form of the problem that it's very hard to see a way out. And it's very hard to even recognize that you're even upset. You can be in such denial and so projecting onto the world that you may not even have even a hint of awareness that you're contributing to this at all. You might see yourself as very, very heavily victimized. Somebody comes along and abuses you and hurts you, and you might think, what did I possibly do to ask for this? I seem to be initially so unfairly treated and so attacked against my will, and this horrible, shocking thing happened that I didn't ask for in any conceivable way that I'm consciously aware of. And it just, your awareness and your perception shows it to you in such a way, your mind actually kind of hallucinates, and it kind of frames your perceptions in such a way that you see the situation in a kind of a twisted, kind of a weird, out of context sort of way of relating to it and experiencing it, that it actually, you see things in it that aren't even there, and you read into it and you buy into it, and you kind of experience it like a horrible nightmare that's happening, and it seems very real and very true. And in that state, when you're very, very strongly projecting, you can really be very insane and very out of touch with any kind of sense of I've got anything to do with this. You can really heavily disown all responsibility and all power and all sense of making sense, all reason goes out the window. Because when you get into ego and you're getting into the split-mindedness of being ego believing, it forms a block to awareness, and the block to awareness literally blocks your awareness. It hides important facts. So like if you were, let's say you're in your garden and you're holding onto a hose pipe and you're watering the flowers and all the water's flying out. But then you implement a block to awareness which blinds you to seeing that you're holding a hose pipe. And in that denial, you become unconscious of that piece of the picture, and now you only see what is in your conscious awareness, and you look around with your conscious awareness and you try to use your awareness like a tool, like you use it to say, if I'm aware of it, it is there. Anything that I'm not aware of doesn't exist. And so then you're only aware of, okay, there's a ton of water spraying out all over the place. I can't see where it's coming from. And so now, because you've lost touch with the causality and you don't see I'm the one who's putting the water there, I'm holding the hose pipe, you don't see it, and so all of a sudden there's just water flying out and you're like, oh my God, water's coming out of nowhere for no good reason. I don't see what's causing it and making it happen. This is a terrible drama, and I don't see myself doing it. And so then it makes sense to you that because you don't see yourself as the cause, then it logically seems to make sense to you to say there must be something else that's causing this. It's not me. It's something else outside myself. Somebody else, some other fuckers out there making all this water show up. Or there's something in the environment, but it's not me. But only because you have a block to awareness and you don't see the part that you play in making this thing happen. This is the entire problem of the ego thought system, of having blocks to awareness that make you unconscious and put you in states of denial so that you're not aware of what you're doing to yourself and that you are the cause of everything that happens, and you disown that. And now the only sensible, seeming reasonable conclusion that you can come to is that I'm not doing this, so there must be a separate will, a separate cause, a separate mind, some other self, another person, something outside me that must be the explanation for where this thing's coming from and what's causing it. And so you get really lost in that because of the blindness of the blocks to awareness. You get really mistaken in what you think is causing stuff, and then you pin the blame on things that are not really the cause of your upsets or things that are happening. You start finding evidence, and you just start trying to prove that someone else is the cause of it, just because you don't see that you're doing it to yourself. And you think that when you're doing that, it's making sense to you, that you're being really reasonable and rational, because you're basing your conclusions off all the evidence that you can see and all the evidence that you have, not realizing that there's stuff that you're not aware of, important facts that would change your entire conclusion that you don't see. And so because you don't see those facts, you don't see the whole picture, you come to false conclusions. And that is how anger gets justified, that you perceive and believe that it seems to make sense to you that someone else has done this to you against your will and you didn't ask for it, and therefore you must be innocent because you don't see how you caused it. And that automatically means, well, it implies and means someone else is to blame. So now you're justified in your anger because it seems to you as though someone else really is and must be the cause. Because if you're like, I'm not the cause, and you sort of establish that fact based on what you're aware of, you then sort of say, I've already accepted that, and I can see the seeming reality of the truth that I'm not doing this. It therefore must be someone else. And that is the total basis for all anger and all projection and all blame. That only because you don't see your causality, that's the only reason why you see yourself being victimized. And so as you are in a problem and you need to do some forgiveness to get back some peace, it's a difficult starting point because you can be very, very deluded at the start when you're thinking, I need to forgive, but you have this heavy belief that it's somebody else is the one who's the problem. They are a problem. They are guilty. They've done something. Holding that in your mind, you'll kind of automatically start thinking, well, because they are the one who's doing this, I need to forgive them. I need to let them somehow off the hook, or I need to use the Course as a weapon to make them go away. They're the place where the problem is, and I need to fix it there. And that's where you start. You start in your delusional state of mind where you don't even yet recognize that you are the one that did this to yourself. And that's why it's really difficult to sort of even get the forgiving machinery going when you're immersed in projection and unconsciousness, to even find a starting point to sort of say, how do I get out of this? And you don't even at that point even realize or know or have an awareness that that person's got nothing to do with your problem or this cause that you think was causing you. It's absolutely, completely unrelated to why you're having this suffering. But you believe that it is. You have this perceptual block that forces you into a perception that someone else must be the cause. The cause has been separated off from you and projected, denial and projection, and now you see it as somebody else's problem. So you can get really deceived by appearance of form, where the form of the problem, especially the more you believe in it, becomes kind of a trap and a kind of a prison where you're so sort of blinded by the form of the problem, the form of the upset, and who was involved and who did what to who, that it becomes really kind of difficult to break out of that little box, or to even pinpoint what is it about this that is coming from me, or what is it about this very specific issue that has got anything to do with me at all, or how am I even involved in this? What's this got to do with my mind or my perceiving? Surely it's all about them and their mistakes. Um, so I find it's good to have some basic tools or basic principles or concepts that help you to apply some kind of a sort of a way out of these things, no matter the form of the situation. And a good one is to understand cause and effect so that you have a sort of a foundation, a kind of a key that can unlock the whole thing. And it kind of basically boils down to this. God is the creator. You are his creation. He is the cause of you. You are the effect of him. All other brothers are also the effect of God. Therefore, God has caused all people, and they are all equally the effect of him. Therefore, they did not cause each other. Your brother is not your father or your mother. Your brother is on an equal footing to you in terms of you both were created by the same Father. He is the only cause of you, the only thing that establishes what you are. And so if you start getting any kind of a belief or a dynamic or a way of perceiving or a belief about what's happened that involves in any way any hint of cause passing between you and your brother, you must be mistaken. And that belief that one brother causes another brother is the basis of the whole ego's thought system. It is behind every deception and all level confusion and all projections of blame, because you are not the cause of your brother and your brother is not the cause of you. And so because that's a very high level truth and it's very technically simple, cause and effect, God is the cause of both of you, you are not the cause of each other, you can now sort of use that in any situation, and you can sort of look at, okay, here's a situation that I'm in, and where in this situation am I believing that something on the same level as I am is causing me? Because that whatever that belief is and whatever that way of perceiving is, it must be not true. So, I don't know, if we make up something like you go to the gas station and somebody cuts you off the gas pump and slams into your car and you have an argument and there's heated words and blah, 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 and then you get all caught up in the drama and you get upset and angry and you can't let it go, blah, blah, blah. It's only because your mind is now gone into level confusion and projection and denial, and you've lost sight of the simple fact that that person cannot have caused you anything, and you did not cause them anything. Their car cannot have slammed into your car in reality, because neither of those things exist. So you get this one little tool then that you can start looking, well, I feel like that person just freaking attacked me with their car. That's a misperception. So that means that I'm accusing them of causing me of being upset. That I'm only upset because of the causality that's coming from that person and that event and what happened. And that means that I am not perceiving and believing correctly. So I need to do a process of some kind of reversal and canceling and breaking of this idea of this sort of horizontal causality that is all entirely ego, fiction, illusion, to get my awareness back to that I am the cause. I am not a victim. Nothing has happened that I didn't choose. Everything that I feel, all of my upset feelings and my anger and blah, 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 is all based on my psychological issues. Any justified anger and blame that I had must have come from me not realizing that I chose to make this incident happen. That I used this person as a scapegoat so that I could take an opportunity to get rid of some of my sin. You got to start being really honest with yourself. Honesty is the best policy. It's what allows you to really admit to the truth, and that sets you free. So this is basically this is the first strategy that I use in all upsetting scenarios, all forms of suffering. I start by looking at, where am I believing that I am being affected by something on this level? And whatever that belief is, or collection of beliefs, no matter how many aspects there are, if it in any way involves the idea that something on this level has caused me, that the dream has caused me, the world has caused me in any way, that is a false belief and it has to go. If I want to get back to forgiveness and back to a state of mind that is saved and myself is ruler of the universe and the secret of salvation is I did it to myself, I have to undo all of those wrong beliefs. They're not truth. They're lies that I made up and told myself in the situation to hide the truth from myself. And it literally has nothing to do with the world or the people in the world or the things that happen. It's entirely to do with how I have attacked myself. So if it's that so then, like, I literally say phrases like, I'm not being caused by that person doesn't have power over me. They are not the reason why I'm upset. You're never upset for the reason you think. They have not made me hurt. They did not put this hurt in me. They literally had no way to cause me. They are not the cause of me. They haven't caused me. They haven't done anything to me. The things that I'm feeling and experiencing and having in my body and blah, 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 I must have put there because they didn't, because they are not the cause of me. And so that means you're owning the power that you have, the power of your decision, the secret of salvation. You're owning up to the truth that you did this to yourself. You have to admit that. You have to admit that if you want the freedom from the secret of salvation, you have to admit that that secret is always true. There are no exceptions of any kind, including sickness and death and all forms of attack and suffering. It must always be true that if I'm not happy, it's because I chose not to be happy. If I'm suffering, it's because I chose to suffer. If my body's dying, it's because I'm killing my body with my mind. If I'm in health, it's because I'm forcing my body to be healthy with my mind. I'm responsible for everything that I experience and make happen. That gives you back your power, and it takes the power away from the projection of your power, which is disowning yourself, and removes the basis of fear, because all fear will come from even the slightest belief that there is a cause outside you other than God that is causing you against your will. It will produce fear. the only way to stop the fear thoughts, which will generate by your mind as a result of that kind of way of looking at the world, it will make fearful thoughts happen because you're looking at things as if they're threatening you, is to correct the causality, that I am not being threatened by these things. They are not making me afraid. I'm only afraid because I'm believing that they are the thing that has the power to do that. And nothing in the world is causing me anything. I am the reason why I'm afraid. I am wanting to be afraid. I must have made a wrong decision because I'm not at peace. I made the decision myself. But I can choose otherwise, and I want to choose otherwise because I want to be at peace. It's nobody else's fault. So this takes them off the hook and renders them innocent. And of course, finding them to be innocent is natural, and it's sort of a goal, but it's not really the reason that you're forgiving. You're forgiving in order to heal yourself, to heal your own mind, so that you are back in peace and you have your power back. And it works the other way around as well, because if you if you think that you've done something to your brother and you've caused them in any way, it will induce guilt. It's the belief that you've sinned against them. Behind sin, there's causality. If you think that you have caused your brother, you will automatically believe you've sinned against his will, that you're therefore guilty, and now you're afraid and feeling sorry for yourself because you think you have been the cause of what they are experiencing. That is not true. Never, ever is that true. So you have to sometimes deprogram yourself from that belief too, and sort of like, I did not cause that person to be upset. They chose to be upset and to use the situation to be upset so they could project their own guilt onto me. They wanted to be unhappy. They made themselves hurt and unhappy, and they are responsible 100% for everything they have experienced. I am not the cause of them. I do not have power over them. I have not done anything to them. Therefore, that implies I am innocent. And I always do it both ways, because there's sometimes there's nuances that I don't quite sort of undo enough if I just focus on taking responsibility for what they didn't do to me. I need to also realize that I didn't do anything to them, and that helps to free me up, and I feel relief, and I have a sigh of relief that I am not guilty because I did not attack them. Essentially, that's the only form of forgiveness. The only process. If you put it into different forms and give it different words, that's fine. If you want to phrase it differently or involve the Holy Spirit more or whatever you want to do, that's fine. But the only thing that these forgiveness processes are trying to accomplish is to fix the only problem that has happened, and the only problem is that you've reversed causality. You in heaven thought that you could be the cause of God and that he was the effect of you, and that therefore you've made things change in him and now you're a sinner. That's the only basis of the entire thought system. So every single condition, every form of suffering, every state of ego is all based on a reversal of cause and effect, and the various states of projection and denial and suffering that come from that reversal of perception. False perception is backwards perception based on I perceive that the cause is outside of me and that I am being affected by it. That's the whole basis of thinking that the dream is dreaming you and that the world is affecting you. There are no causes in the world. You are the cause of the world because you're dreaming it. Get yourself into that hot seat, into that position, into that perspective. You can't possibly see yourself as a victim. You cannot see yourself as being affected by anyone or anything if you own the responsibility that you are the cause. This is a course in cause, not effect. So that's the basic process that I do, at least as a starting point. If I'm really lost in some drama thing and I've become all denial and don't want to admit that I'm mistaken and being righteous or whatever, blaming people, that's where I have to start, because sometimes I just need something that I can use that will start to correct my mind and diffuse the illusions that I've bought into, and to start to remind me that I did have something to do with this and I can change my experience and I must have chosen this, and to help you to see that all the things that you thought were true are not true. All the ways that you thought that person was the fucker that did this, that gets diffused and cancelled and undone when you get the causality right. It automatically takes care of all of the delusional perceptions when you get the cause back into yourself. And this is what the secret of salvation is based on. The basic the pinnacle of the atonement and the true perception and miracle-mindedness is all of this state of I am the cause of this entire dream and nothing happens to me against my will and I'm responsible for everything that's happening, and therefore I'm not being victimized, not even a tiny bit. Therefore nothing can happen to me unless I do it to myself, and if I choose not to hurt myself, I will not be hurt. There is a line in the Course that Jesus says, if you cannot be hurt unless you hurt yourself. This is the secret of salvation. It's the key to forgiveness. It's the basic principle behind correction of perception, getting yourself from all states of insanity back to the truth, is owning up to being Christ and dreaming of the dream, and taking back your power, admitting to what you've done to yourself, looking at what you've done to yourself, why you did it, the purpose of your sickness, which is always to defend against the truth that you think is attacking you that isn't, the reason why you chose to implement self-attack and to then blame it on others, and what is that defending? What is it hiding? What aren't you willing to admit? Why are you in denial? Why aren't you becoming aware of the stuff that you've blocked from your awareness? You got to remove these denials in order to remove the block, in order to see what's behind it, in order to unearth the truth and to uncover the love, to get back to the power, so that you can get back to the perspective that you're ruler of the universe, and that therefore you cannot be victimized and you cannot be attacked, and you are invulnerable. You are immortal because you are the dreamer of the dream. It's the end of all suffering. It's the end of death. To own the power of your decision, that anything you experience, you must choose it. Nothing happens without your choice. No one dies without their own consent. I'm going to stop there. So this is sort of a general approach to forgiving and applying forgiveness in any situation. Just get the causality fixed, and everything else will start falling into place. All your perceptions will reverse, your fear will diminish, if you really get very honest, you'll uncover the basis of all the decisions that you've made and why, and that you want something else and that you choose something else. And then you let the Holy Spirit help you to undo the consequences of your decision. Forgiveness offers everything I want. So it's not that I'm forgiving you, I'm forgiving myself for what I've done to myself, and learning to love and accept myself as God created me, so that I'll stop hurting myself and allow myself to be the way God intended. This is forgiveness. This is the basic mechanism, the reversing of cause and effect back to their proper divine order, the proper sequence of the levels. God is first, we are second. People on the second level do not cause anything against each other. So just get back to being a child of God and not a child of your brother, and you'll be fine. So happy days and miracles, and love you, and bye.